America's national parks are marketed as places of beauty, peace, and safety. Millions visit every year, trusting nature, rangers, and clearly marked hiking trails. But beneath postcard landscapes, something deeply disturbing has been quietly happening for decades. People enter these parks alone, with families, or during normal daytime hikes. Some never return, leaving behind questions that refuse to fade away. Search teams arrive quickly, often within hours, sometimes minutes after disappearances are reported. Despite advanced technology, trained dogs, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers, answers remain missing. These are not ordinary lost hikers who wandered off familiar paths. These cases follow strange patterns that defy logic, coincidence, and traditional criminal explanations. Former police investigator David Paulides called this disturbing phenomenon missing 411. Paulides did not invent stories or rely on internet rumors. He studied official missing persons reports, park records, and eyewitness testimonies. What he found shocked him enough to dedicate his life investigating these cases. The disappearances share similarities too ignore or easily explain away. Victims vanish without screams, struggle signs, or evidence of human interference. Sometimes they disappear in seconds, while companions walk just steps ahead. Other times, weather changes suddenly, confusing both witnesses and search teams. In many cases, experienced outdoorsmen vanish in areas they know extremely well. Children disappear under circumstances no rational explanation has ever fully satisfied. One of the earliest documented cases occurred in Yosemite National Park. A young boy walked slightly ahead of his family on a clear trail. Within moments, he vanished completely, without any sound or disturbance. Search efforts lasted days, involving hundreds of trained professionals and volunteers. Dogs lost scent trails abruptly, behaving as if the child evaporated mid-path. Strangely, the boy's body was later found miles away at higher elevation. There were no injuries, consistent with animal attacks or accidental falls. Officials labeled the death exposure, yet the timeline made no sense. Exposure deaths require prolonged cold exposure, exhaustion, and extended time lost. This child vanished during warm weather, in daylight, with family nearby. How did he travel miles uphill without leaving footprints or trail markers? Why were his clothes neatly arranged instead of torn or scattered? These questions were quietly dismissed, filed away, and rarely discussed publicly. As cases accumulated, patterns became increasingly difficult to deny. Victims were often found near water sources, granite fields, or dense forests. Many had clothing removed, even during freezing temperatures, contradicting survival instincts. Some bodies were discovered in areas previously searched multiple times thoroughly. Search dogs frequently failed, showing confusion or refusing to follow scent trails. One particularly chilling case involved an experienced hunter in Colorado. He vanished during a short afternoon hunt near his family cabin. The man carried survival gear, weapons, and extensive wilderness experience. He failed to return by evening, triggering immediate concern and search efforts. Despite massive searches, helicopters, and infrared scanning, nothing was found initially. Months later, his remains appeared near the original search area. The terrain showed no signs of predation, struggle, or environmental disaster. Officials again cited exposure, though weather conditions had been mild. Families often describe unusual behavior before disappearances occur. Victims sometimes appear confused, disoriented, or suddenly change direction unexpectedly. Children report seeing someone or something before vanishing moments later. Parents insist their child was visible seconds before disappearance. There are no screams, no panic, and no warning signs. Even more unsettling are cases involving recovered survivors. Some children are found alive after days missing in extreme conditions. They describe being guided by a man, bear, or unknown presence. Their stories change over time or become fragmented and incomplete. Medical professionals struggle to explain survival under impossible circumstances. Park officials rarely discuss missing 411 publicly or collectively. Individual cases are treated separately, avoiding pattern recognition entirely. Freedom of information requests are often denied or heavily redacted. Some families claim records of their loved ones were mysteriously removed. Paulides argues this is not incompetence, but deliberate avoidance. Admitting patterns would raise terrifying questions about public safety. What force could bypass experienced trackers, dogs, and modern technology? Why does this phenomenon appear exclusive to certain geographic regions? As you listen, remember these are not ghost stories or campfire legends. These are real people, real families, and officially documented disappearances. And what comes next only deepens the mystery even further. One missing person can be an accident or unfortunate coincidence. Dozens following identical circumstances suggest something far more complex. Paulides identified patterns so specific they challenge conventional explanations. These patterns appear repeatedly across different states, decades, and environments. One recurring factor is proximity to granite or rocky terrain. Granite fields appear again and again near disappearance locations. Scientists claim granite has no relevance to missing persons cases, yet statistical clustering around granite remains consistently unexplained. Water is another disturbing constant within missing 411 cases. Victims often vanish near rivers, lakes, or seasonal streams. When bodies are recovered, they are frequently located near water. In some cases, water was absent initially, yet appeared later mysteriously. Weather changes play an equally unsettling role in these disappearances. Clear skies often transform into sudden storms without forecast warnings. Search efforts become delayed, allowing critical time to pass. Witnesses report thick fog appearing almost instantly, blocking visibility completely. Time distortion is another phenomenon repeatedly described by survivors. Some claim hours felt like minutes while lost inside forests. Others experience sudden blackouts or memory gaps during disappearances. Medical examinations fail to explain these temporal inconsistencies. Another impossible pattern involves the discovery locations of remains. Bodies are often found uphill, against gravity and natural movement. Small children are discovered in locations trained adults struggle reaching. There are no trails, drag marks, or signs of assistance. Clothing removal is perhaps the most disturbing recurring detail. Hypothermia victims sometimes remove clothing paradoxically before death. However, many missing 411 cases occur in warm weather conditions. Clothes are found neatly folded, placed, or arranged intentionally. Animals do not fold clothing, nor does accidental exposure explain this behavior. Search dogs reacting abnormally raises further concerns. Highly trained dogs sometimes refuse to track scent trails. Handlers report dogs becoming frightened or confused unexpectedly. Some dogs abruptly stop, sit down, or return without explanation. Children found alive often share eerily similar stories. They describe following voices, lights, or figures calling their names. These accounts are dismissed as imagination or trauma responses. Yet similarities across unrelated cases are deeply troubling. In one case, a child described being hidden by a robot grandmother. In another, a boy claimed a bear carried him safely through forests. Medical professionals struggle to rationalize these narratives consistently. Maps reveal clusters of disappearances forming geographic hotspots. These clusters appear across national parks and wilderness preserves. They ignore state borders, weather patterns, and population density. Traditional crime mapping fails to explain their consistent distribution. Serial killer theories have been suggested repeatedly. However, no physical evidence supports large-scale coordinated abductions. No witnesses report suspicious individuals or organized criminal operations. Logistics alone make this theory nearly impossible. Wild animal attacks fail under scrutiny as explanations. Predation leaves signs: blood, torn clothing, drag marks. Most missing 411 cases show none of these indicators. Accidental falls also fail to explain time gaps and uphill recoveries. Search areas are often small, yet victims disappear entirely. Modern GPS, phones, and emergency equipment vanish without trace. Government silence fuels speculation rather than calming public concern. Park authorities refuse to release comprehensive missing persons databases. Media coverage remains fragmented and superficial. Patterns are never discussed openly during official briefings. The question remains uncomfortable yet unavoidable. If these disappearances were random, patterns would not exist. But they do, repeatedly, consistently, and without satisfactory explanation. When logic fails, theories naturally rush to fill the void. Missing 411 has generated explanations ranging from scientific to supernatural. None fully explain every pattern, yet all reveal disturbing possibilities. One theory involves unknown predators or undiscovered animal species. Advocates suggest creatures capable of stealth. intelligence, and strength. Such animals would need extraordinary abilities to avoid detection. No physical evidence supports this hypothesis conclusively. Another theory suggests interdimensional phenomena or space-time anomalies. Some believe certain locations act as natural portals or energy zones. This could explain sudden disappearances, time distortion, and weather shifts. Science currently lacks tools to verify or disprove this idea. UFO involvement is frequently mentioned in missing 411 discussions. Sightings often coincide with disappearances in nearby regions. Witnesses report strange lights, hovering objects, or silent craft. Official agencies deny any connection between these events. Government experimentation theories suggest darker possibilities. Some believe victims encounter classified technology or testing zones. Military interest near certain parks raises uncomfortable questions. However, no leaked documents confirm systematic involvement. Psychological explanations argue victims experience sudden mental breakdowns. Panic could cause irrational movement and disorientation. But this fails to explain missing equipment and tracking failures. Supernatural folklore provides another unsettling layer of interpretation. Native American legends describe entities inhabiting forests and mountains. These beings lure humans using familiar voices or appearances. Such stories predate modern parks by centuries. Paulides avoids endorsing any single explanation definitively. He presents data, patterns, and unanswered questions instead. This approach frustrates critics but strengthens investigative credibility. Skeptics argue missing 411 exaggerates coincidences. They claim wilderness is inherently dangerous and unpredictable. Yet skeptics struggle explaining recovered bodies in impossible locations. Even scientists admit gaps in understanding wilderness disappearances. Human behavior under extreme stress remains poorly understood. Environmental factors can interact unpredictably with physiology and psychology. However, missing 411 extends beyond simple misadventure statistics. The patterns are too specific, repeated, and geographically consistent. Dismissal without investigation only deepens public distrust. Families of victims continue seeking answers. Decades later, many feel abandoned by institutions meant to protect them. Their grief is compounded by secrecy and unanswered questions. As technology advances, expectations for explanations increase. Yet missing 411 remains stubbornly resistant to resolution. Each new case adds weight to unresolved mysteries. The truth may be stranger than any single theory suggests, or perhaps multiple explanations operate simultaneously. What remains undeniable is something deeply wrong within these cases. One of the most haunting cases occurred in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. A 6-year-old boy vanished while playing with friends nearby. Within seconds, he was gone without noise or visible struggle. Massive searches yielded nothing for days. Later, his remains were found miles away in rugged terrain. No predator evidence existed. No explanation satisfied investigators or grieving parents. Another case involved an elderly man hiking familiar trails. He disappeared despite decades of local experience. His body was recovered in an area searched repeatedly. Clothes were missing, weather was mild, and answers non-existent. These stories continue repeating across America. Different parks, different victims, same unanswered outcomes. The question is not whether wilderness is dangerous. The question is why these specific patterns exist repeatedly. Why do authorities refuse centralized databases? Why are families silenced or ignored? Why are patterns never acknowledged publicly? Missing 411 forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. Perhaps nature holds secrets humanity does not yet understand. Perhaps we are not as safe or informed as believed. As visitors, we trust maps, signs, and ranger assurances, but something operates beyond those protections. If this were purely accidental, transparency would exist. Instead, silence dominates official responses. Before dismissing these cases, remember the victims. These were ordinary people on ordinary days. They deserved answers, not mystery. As you finish this story, ask yourself honestly, would you hike alone knowing this information? Would you let your child wander ahead on trails? The forests are vast, the patterns are real, and the disappearances continue until answers emerge. Missing 411 remains unsolved, and perhaps intentionally unexplained. If this story disturbed you, you are not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more real mysteries they don't want discussed. And remember, nature does not always give back what it takes.